Rezon and Vidil have confirmed they are not playing on Mr. Savage, but he could still be returning to competitive Fortnite. I'll talk about who, with, and why I think that, as well as what is going on over on EU. Veno and Malabuka are now contesting each other for the rest of the season. We have a new Snakening on NA. Muzz has now been left without a trio, and I want to talk about this April Fool's update that's turned out to actually be a real update. There's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. Let's talk about Mr. Savage first. Is Mr. Savage coming back? Now, I talked about in yesterday's video, it was looking very, very likely that he was going to play with Rezon and Vidil, and we've now got new information. Apparently, this is not happening. It looked like it was going to. Rezon and Vidil both admitted they planned to play with Savage, but as they thought about it more, they realized it wasn't the best option. I think Rezon was actually very mature and had this to say on his stream about why he wouldn't play with Mr. Savage.
We are still debating on who we are playing with, is because, you know, Vidil just moved back to EU from NA. He did all this to play with me, and Vidil and me are locked. Vidil obviously wants to place the best he can, but he also wants to have fun, so with Savage that would be really nice. But he also wants to have a grinder we can perform well with and might even call LAN with. Preferably an IGL that has a spot as well, and Savage was quit the last 3 weeks. So Savage obviously doesn't have a spot, but he's obviously a good player. So we are just still debating on who we are playing with. Either it's another IGL, it's another German, it's Savage. Like, we just gotta think about it rather than doing a decision in the first 10 seconds, then making Savage unquit, and then, I don't know, if we are feeling uncomfortable dropping him, because that would be too fast.
This was at the start of the stream when Rezon went live to discuss everything he hadn't yet decided, but it looks like throughout the course of the day, they made up their mind because Rezon ended and then made a very long tweet, pretty much just saying again what he said here, but with a bit more detail, saying they're not going to play with Savage. They think Savage is crazy. It would have been ridiculously fun, but Savage made it pretty clear to them that if they played this season, he would be playing a little bit, but not fully grinding, and he didn't plan on really playing next season unless they made globals, and that just isn't the teammate they wanted. They didn't want to bring, you know, Mr. Savage back out of retirement just to drop him again. Honestly, I like Rezon's transparency and just maturity here. It makes a lot of sense. I want to see Savage come back, but I get it. Now, this doesn't mean Savage isn't coming back at all, though, because now we have to move on to what's happening with Mongraal, and Mongraal having no teammates. Now, Mongraal also went live on stream to discuss his options, and he had this to say.
I've got 2 options. So I haven't really decided what I'm going to do yet. Or there's a third option, which might happen. I don't know. But the main 2 options is, and I need your guys' opinion because I want to ask what you guys want more. So I can either, I don't know, I mean, I can try out some trios that probably aren't going to be as good as you guys expect. Like, they're not going to be, you know, the best players. And I could just play FNCS with them just for content, kinda, and just still, you know, try and do good. Or I could just not play this FNCS and then just grind and then just get better so I can have better teammates next season. Oh no, those are the 2 options I already see.
Now, I believe the third option that Mongraal didn't talk about that he said might happen is Savage. I feel like he's had a discussion with Savage. It's now opened the door that Savage clearly wants to compete a little bit. He doesn't want to fully grind the game, but there is a part of him that wants to compete. Mongraal's now saying that, you know, he doesn't really know what he's going to do this season. He could just, you know, play with, you know, some other not as good teammates and just make some content and whatever, or he could take this season off, practice, and then try and go crazy next season. I think personally, if you plan on competing next season, there's no reason to just not play this season. The best practice you're going to get is in the tournaments, building up your awareness in endgame, finding refreshes. A lot of the things Mongraal needs to work on aren't just mechanical or things he can do without playing tournaments. So why not play it with Savage? If Savage kind of wants to play a bit of fun for content, I think him and Mongraal getting into it, low expectations for their community. Look, guys, we're not trying to qual globals. We're just trying to have some fun and compete and see how we go. I think that would work really, really well. Now, because Savage did tell Rezon and Vidil, though, that he doesn't want to grind the game a lot. He doesn't want to play like all day, every day, try and lock in globals and, you know, get back on his full grind. I get why people are hesitant to play with him, and it's made me reconsider whether Savage does truly want to come back. It looks like he's just trying to figure out what he wants to do, and this could be a good option. So I'm not really sure where this leaves it, but I want to give the full context and talk about why I was so sure yesterday that Mr. Savage was going to come back, because I really thought Rezon and Vidil were going to say yes, and with that option, I knew Savage would take it. But I love the fact that Savage was honest with Rezon and Vidil and said, look, like, I want to come back and play. It looks fun, but I'm not going to be like fully grinding. And I like the honesty from Rezon and Vidil to not bring him back and then decide later, like, this didn't work, and then drop him again. So it kind of sucks. I hope Savage comes back, but I'm not really sure where this leaves us. We're kind of going to have to wait till Mr. Savage goes live and explains it, I guess. before I recap the tournaments and talk about Veno dropping on Malabuka, the snake eating we're having on NA yet again, I do want to talk about the update really quickly. So a lot of people keep asking me my opinions on it, and do I think it's real? They dropped it on April Fool's. Is it like a 1-week update and that's going to go back? It looks like it is a real update that's going to stay in the game. We ended up getting the Twin Mag AR and the Infiltrator Pump Shotgun added to the game like the leaked update, but they have buffed and nerfed them. So we've had the Twin Mag AR nerfed. It does 3 less damage to every rarity, and the Infiltrator Pump Shotgun has been buffed. As far as like how do they fit into the meta, almost every pro I saw using today was the same meta. They're using the Hollow Twister AR, they're using the Sentinel Pump Shotgun, they'd run the Collateral if they wanted to W key. But there were a few teams like Peterbot and Acorn's teams that I did see actually running the Twin Mag AR for their Surge. It does do more damage, it just has more recoil than the Hollow Twister, so it's kind of hard when it's the first day of an update. A lot of pros are slow to change when the meta changes. They kind of stick to what works unless one of the new guns is insanely broken. So I think we'll see probably more pros using the Twin Mag more in the future, but if you find it off spawn and you find a high rarity of it, it can be worth running over the Hollow Twister. It does just have that way higher recoil. Now, as far as the Infiltrator Pump Shotgun, despite the buff, it's still a lot weaker than the Sentinel Pump. You will take the Sentinel Pump over the Infiltrator 100% of the time. Maybe if it's like a legendary Infiltrator and you have a gray Sentinel Pump, maybe, but we'll see. The structure damage on the Sentinel Pump is just so much better. A lot of people have gotten used to using it. I don't think this update changed the meta that much. Now, they also increased the damage that's done by the Sub-Zero gauntlets. That could be a bit problematic. I didn't really see anyone using it today, but another strong melee weapon in the game that's also mobility. Fortnite seems to really like doing these like damaging mobility items. They just seem to love making them go hands in hand. The other thing they did was they brought back the water sprite. Bob is back, which is awesome for the game. There's a bunch more heals around the map lying around now. They fixed the infinite healing glitch, so Bob is officially back. Now, let's talk about the Evaluation Cup and some of our new trios. So on NA in the finals, we had Aegis, Acorn, and Poyo win 2 of the matches they played phenomenally. They got a first, second, and a first, so they're looking really good. Both their wins was a 14 and 12 kill win. So the old trio, new trio, FNCS champs are back together and they're firing on all cylinders. Now, our old trio, Ritual, Cold, and Peterbot are also still looking really, really good. They got a 14 kill win and a 10 kill third. They got a 24th and a 17th. So they had 2 good games. They were playing super aggressive. I mean, in one of their games, they were messing around. Peterbot tried to jump off Predator Peak next to Crime City and see if he could land in the water without a bat. He died and they had to res him, so they weren't taking it super serious, but they were still trying. They were playing really well, and I think Aegis, Acorn, and Poyo proved that they're the FNCS champs for a reason. It's just the Eval Cup, but I'm still really excited to see how they play together. We had Noxy, Mason, and Golden also win one, a very underrated team getting a 7 kill win. We had Clicks, Higgs, and Yomzo, who usually dominate the Eval Cups. They got a 13th, a 4th, 2nd, and an 18th. I will say, though, they did have their hands full dealing with an EU team that kept camping in the black market. PKR's team was just going into the black market every game, holding out Clix's team, and it did really affect their performance. That's obviously not going to happen in a Divisional Cup or FNCS, so it shouldn't be a big deal going forward, but that was a little bit unfortunate. And then we got to talk about some of our new trios. So we had G-Money, Virgo, and Osid, who did pretty well. They did well in opens. They qualified. We have Rapid, Reet, and Cooper confirmed as a new trio. They got a 2nd, 8th, 5th, and 12th, so they're looking really good. They've confirmed they're staying together. We had Kanata, Bolt, and Sphinx get a 3rd, 7th, 9th, and 13th, so good performance from them. We had Booga, Threats, and Craze playing together, but like we said, Craze won't be playing the rest of the week in the Divisional Cups, but a team that I really want to talk about because, you know, I thought they did quite well, but unfortunately didn't do well enough. We had Muzz, Yapko, and Rise getting 11th, 3rd, 13th, and 9th, but Muzz has now been dropped by Rise. There was rumors going around about this, who they were going to play with. I said it yesterday in my video. It was Yapko, Rise, and Muzz, but I talked to a few pros who were confused because they thought it was going to be Yapko, Rise, and Curly. Turns out Muzz has now been dropped for Curly, and he has no trio. Apparently, he might go back with Rise for FNCS, but Rise wants to try out Curly this week in the Divisional Cups, but understandably, if Muzz might just get over and say, I want to find a new trio. I'm sick of this. I don't want to be the backup. I don't want to wait around to see if you want to play with me. I feel like we're a good trio, but I'll go play with someone else. So Cooper did mention that they were talking to Muzz potentially to play with, making it Rapid, Cooper, and Muzz, but Muzz said that he didn't want to play with him because he would go back to Rise given the opportunity. So Cooper said, look, I respect the honesty. I like that. We're not going to pick you up then. Cooper did say he wasn't guaranteed to just drop Reet for Muzz instantly, but because Muzz said that, he didn't even consider it. So unfortunately, Muzz, I guess kind of shooting himself in the foot by being the good guy, has left himself trioless. I hope he can maybe play with Threats and Booga this week and still play Div 1. They could make some money and do really, really well. I know people have been saying that, oh, maybe Muzz will play with them and they'll do really well and they'll drop Craze. I don't want to see Craze dropped. I don't want to see anyone else drop to this point. I want the teams to just be locked in. I know everyone thinks, oh, for these videos, Aussie, drama, views, videos, get to all these new trios, but at this point, I want to see all the trios lock in, and I just want to get into FNCS and see who the best of the best is. I like it. It is fun. It's exciting, but at this point, it's getting a bit much. It's getting a little bit too crazy. We did have a very exciting EU Eval Cup as well. We saw Ping, Wox, and Malabuka going toe-to-toe with Vico, Veno, Flixi yet again. So they are now dropping on them. That is confirmed. Veno wants to land on Malabuka. I talked about in yesterday's video, and so far it is going the way of Malabuka. I think overall the spawn fights off spawns is about 4-2, I'm pretty sure, including the Div Cup finals. They're now into the Eval Cup. I will say, obviously, it's a new drop for Veno. Malabuka hasn't been conned there in set lobbies by other good teams. They've been mostly conned in opens, but even that experience of fighting there in opens is going to help them for these spawn fights against Veno. So I think Veno's team will tend to get better and better as these spawn fights increase, but it's still looking really ugly for both of them. Ping, Wox, and Malabuka did get a 16 Elam third, a 14 Elam win, and then a 14th and 16th well conned by Veno. So Malabuka's team still ended up doing quite well. They made money. They almost got 2 wins on the day, whereas Veno's team unfortunately did not have the same success. Vico, Veno, Flixi had a 30th, and 28th. They did get a 9 Elam second though. Again, showing when they make it off spawn, they can do really well. So Vico, Veno, Flixi, they got the potential, but I don't like this decision by either of them, but Veno's put in a rough position right now. Crime City, they were getting contested at constantly. If they went for the train and the city, if they went on the train, someone dropped in the city. If they went for the city, someone took the train, and they were even getting contested at the city, even without the train. So things were getting a bit messy. They tried to go to Mars Meadows. Frodoxy won't leave. Frodoxy's playing really well off spawn. Now we have Yanis wanting to go back and contest Frodoxy at Mars Meadows now as well. So there's 2 teams at Mars Meadows. It's not really leaving them with a lot of good options. They can go Seaport City, then they go to contest Queasy, then go Flooded Frogs, then they go to contest Marius. There's only so many good drops on the map. They could go into the Shafts, but then they go to Con iDrop, and they've contested like 10 teams there. Like, it is a pretty rough spot, you know, with only 1 week until FNCS. Even though they have the land spot, Veno's in a rough spot, and if he tries to pick another drop, that means he's switched 3 drops within about a week. A lot of people are going to think he's just going to switch again. So I feel like Veno has to lock in on this spawn fight against Malabuka at Lone Wolf Lair, but I just don't see either of them leaving. I talked to Raz, their coach, in my Twitch stream, and he said, look, he thinks they can win 8 out of 12 off spawn, which I think is feasible. With a really good performance, they could win 8 out of 12. And to be fair, if Veno's team gets 8 out of 12 games where they make it off spawn, they can win a grand finals like that. So I respect the thought process. If you're going to be conned somewhere, you might as well be conned to the best drop, and that's what they're going with. So it's going to be interesting to see how this affects the season going forward. We've got our 2 best teams, first and second last FNCS, now contesting each other. So teams like Vanya, Pixie, Marius, Queasy's team can now have really solid performances. So we had Vanya coming off the back of their Div 1 week win. They got a 11 Elam second and a 12 Elam win. We had Strapped, Hellfire, and Tripper and getting a 10 Elam win. And then we had Combek, Blaha, and Mixon also getting a 10 Elam win. So very spicy EU, and I'm very interested to see how that spawn fight goes going forward.